Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters. We all know that the transition out of the military isn't just about leaving a job; it's about leaving a way of life. For today's guest, Brian Moss, that really hit hard the day he took off the uniform after more than 22 years in the United States Army. The phone call stopped, the responsibilities vanished, and the mission he'd lived for was suddenly replaced by an uncertain road ahead. But true to his soldier's mindset, Brian didn't dwell; he adapted. And that adaptability has carried him into his next mission, leading AAAAC Wildlife Removal as its president and co-owner. Recently named the 2024 Veteranpreneur of the Year, Brian has taken his lifelong passion for wildlife and trapping and transformed it into a thriving veteran-owned business that serves communities across multiple states. From growing up in Southwest Louisiana to enlisting in the Army in search of something bigger, Brian's journey is filled with lessons in resilience, leadership, and reinvention. Whether it was standing beside a soldier as he became a U.S. citizen, a moment that still brings him to tears, or discovering that franchise ownership offered the structured setup and camaraderie he missed, Brian's story is one that every veteran can relate to in some way. Today, we're diving into his transition, how he built a successful business, and what advice he has for veterans looking to take their next step with confidence. Brian, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here.
Dude, first question for everybody. Where did you grow up and why in the hell did you join the Army?
I grew up in the great city of Sulphur, Louisiana. And I say Louisiana now, because back in the day, I'd say Louisiana. But I grew up in Southwest Louisiana, spent my whole life there. My entire family lives in the same spot. My grandparents didn't speak English. Always said this, that, the other. Kind of changed my accent now. Kind of got away from that Cajun accent a little bit because when you join the Army, I remember in basic training, they kind of looked at you a little funny. You know, where are you from? South Louisiana. Oh, yeah, you're stupid. No, no, I graduated high school at least, but I kind of got away from that. But growing up in South Louisiana, I mean, you either went off to college or you went and worked in the plants. And it's just not something that was, my dad worked in the plants all his life, and it's a hard life. I was a welder when I got out of high school. I really enjoyed that, and the money was good, but it's just not what I wanted to do. I remember the day I was sitting in a shipyard. I was working in a shipyard as a welder. We cut the back of a barge out, and we were having a lunch, me and this older fella. We were sitting over the barge, and we were talking. It was a lot of work. And I was like, man, there's got to be something else. I told that guy, I said, I think I'm going to go join the Army. And he told me, he goes, well, if you do that, he said, don't come back here. He said, you stay in there for the whole time. He says, it's a good life. And the next day, I went down to Lake Charles, talked to Staff Sergeant Hill, and I still remember our recruiter. Yeah. And I joined the Army and never looked back. I loved it.
Your story, it's that of so many veterans, I think, myself included. I was born and raised in Southern Indiana, and like you, the only option is to go work on the farms, or go to college to get out. And college definitely wasn't for me. That definitely wasn't something on my radar after high school. Fast forward now, I have 2 degrees and everything else, but that's a different story. And so I just kind of like you, I knew there was more to the world, but what was it about the Army for you? Was it just kind of the only one that you considered, or it just popped into your head and this is what I'm going to go with?
Well, there was a great movie back in the 80s called Stripes.
That's it.
Huge influence right there. I saw that and I was like, man, the Army's going to be the coolest. And it was it's kind of sounds weird, but Stripes really influenced me. And the old commercials the Army used to have, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, what a great life, and be all you can be. And so the advertising really drew me in. I really wanted to be in the Army. I'd get seasick being from South Louisiana. I raised on shrimp boats and stuff. I didn't want to be on the water. I would get seasick, and I didn't want to be in the Marines. And then the Air Force, I'm not really – the Army fit me. I really enjoyed the videos,
Yeah. I got sold hook, line, and sinker on that too. What ended up being your job in there?
19 Delta Cav Scout.
You're a damn scout, just like I was a damn infantry guy. You watched the same videos I did, kicking doors in, rappelling out of helicopters. It's like, man, this looks like a lot of fun. And then you get in and it's like, we ain't doing none of that shit. We're learning how to push a broom and clean weapons all the time.
Yeah, right? Yeah. This is a buffer. This is your new tool, buffer. Buffer
right.
rodeo. Oh, no, don't do that. So yeah, the when I went down, I talked to the guy down at MEPS, and he showed me the scout little video and lots of pictures and stuff, and it really kind of drew me in. It's something that I was interested in. I don't regret it. I love being a scout. There's not another job in the Army uh, that I would have done. It fit me like a glove.
Yeah, man. Did you get your spurs?
Yeah, I got
I got spurs.
many pairs of spurs.
Yeah,
I've been spur master several times.
I figured. They made me my first duty station was Fort Stewart, and yeah, I had just missed EIB, so they forced us new privates to go through a spur ride with the scouts, and so
Oh,
I ended
wow.
up going through getting spurs, and then later on would get an EIB too. So, you mentioned wanting to leave Louisiana to explore new opportunities. Did you find those opportunities in the Army?
I did. Traveled the world, got to see great places, a lot of good people, some not so great places. But Louisiana, it just didn't offer anything to me. I don't know. I had a weird, ever since I was a little kid, I always looked, and it may sound strange, I always looked west. Uh, in any time I was out hunting, or I was always looking to the west. I always wanted to go somewhere different, somewhere else. I didn't want to do the same old thing, grow up, see the same old people that I grew up with, and really not amount to much. And Louisiana just didn't offer what I thought was out there, and the military did, and that's why I took off. And if they'd have signed me up for 20 years when I got there, I would have signed up for 20 years.
So you knew you took what dude said to heart, and you just were determined to stay for the whole time.
It was never a doubt in my mind that I would reenlist. Never. It was
That's
just
incredible.
a thing that I wanted to do. My dad actually was kicked out of the Army in basic training, failure to adapt. So, really proud of that. So, he told me what kind of private he was. I said, I probably would have choked you. And he said, yeah.
Yeah, I imagine. I was a strong private, so I had a mouth on me.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. We
it
had
was
something like that.
back in the. When did you actually join?
In April of 1986.
Oh God, I was a year old. I was even a year old.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, being honest, man. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's.
Oh, that's okay. When a funny story, I made staff sergeant back whenever I was in the Army, very early on. Making rank was very, very difficult. I mean, you had
Mhm.
to have correspondence course, college, max PT, max weapons. You had to have everything, and people just didn't get promoted. And I remember when I made staff sergeant, I went and take my first DA photo. I had one service stripe, and there were probably 4 or 5 E7s and E6s, and they were all looking at me like, hey, you didn't get all your stuff put on your uniform. You're wrong. Like, nope, I got one service stripe. But nowadays it's normal for people to make rank really quick. But back then I was fast tracked.
Yeah,
So
it's a problem that people make rank so fast now. It's a big problem. I saw it when I was in. So I joined in '03. So you were probably at the tail end of your career because I assume you got out in '08.
I got out 07, 08. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I was going on my second deployment to Iraq. Yeah, it would have been my long 16-month deployment that I did out in the west of Iraq. And I saw it, man. I would see E7s in 7 years, and it's just shitty leadership. And it was, I mean, it's from really 2005, I think, to 2015 when I got out. It was just let's promote as fast as we can. We need bodies, the surge, all of that good stuff, and it really did a number on the Army, man. It's not a good place right now.
Now, there's not a lot of experience. There's a lot of good soldiers in there, just not a lot of experience, and they kind of fall into that gap of um, they don't want to take a leadership role. They don't want to rock the boat. They just kind of want to move along and get along, and you can't do that. That's why in the Cav, uh, you could be a good leader and have strong leadership abilities and traits and voice, especially in the Cav. Excuse me, especially being a scout, to voice your thoughts and your opinions to your commanders, and they really listen to us. I never had a bad commander that just absolutely wouldn't listen to me. They paid attention to the older scouts.
Well, it's so cool to get to talk to somebody. I mean, because essentially you're from a different era of the Army than what I served in, right? And so even though you were still, there's about 5 years of overlap there between us. I'm sure you probably noticed from about the time I came in to about the time you were getting out, the Army was changing in a big way with the Global War on Terror ramping up, multiple deployments, the patch charts coming out. I mean, the story for me is coming back from my first deployment at the end of 2005, beginning of 2006. We were handed orders with our next deployment date on the parade field after coming home from a deployment. Like we already knew we were going. And so, I'm sure that's not the Army that you were familiar with because you're probably doing a lot of training at the time, right? I mean, you had Desert Storm in there. What else did you have in there?
Well, Desert Storm, and then the new Iraq. That
Yeah.
was it.
So that was
And
basically
so,
it. A lot of glorified janitor stuff going on for you, huh?
yeah, yeah, a whole lot of that. Now, I did 4.5 years in bomb holder Germany, and we did a lot of alerts, a lot of rollouts, a lot of training in the field, uh, but it got monotonous, and we didn't see a lot of times I don't think we saw the value in it because we never got to use it. It got to be where we were never expecting to really have to use it. Though we'd like to say we were, we didn't expect anything to happen. Now things turned differently when I got to Korea. I was in 4-7 Cav up by the DMZ, and things were real there. So we knew that the enemy over there was a little tough. Iraq hit and everything changed. Then you got older soldiers just wanting to get out, younger soldiers getting poured in with not experience. So you're getting a lot of young guys that I'll just say, I trained my whole life to get shot at,
Right.
and then younger soldiers are getting thrown in right out of high school, and they're not really prepared or even thought about that, and they're running straight into bullets and stuff. So it's different. My
Yeah.
generation versus the newer generation. It's tough on the newer ones.
Yeah.
It's tough on everybody, but I think the newer ones were thrown into something a little harder than what I was prepared for.
Yep. You talk about one of your most impactful memories is going to a soldier's citizenship appointment. Can you share that story with us?
Oh gosh, yes, that's one of the coolest things I've ever done in my military career, and I've done a lot of stuff. But I had a specialist, Martinez, wanted to get his citizenship, and we were at Fort Hood, and his parents were in California, and it was not the family didn't have money, and so he asked me one day. He said, I'm going down to take my citizenship test, and since my parents can't go, can you go? Oh man, I was like, heck yeah. And so we got our greens on and we went down, and I was there present while he got his he went in to talk. He did a counseling session, talked with the guy, and he come back out and he goes, I just got to go through the ceremony. And I was like, wow. So we went in, and I actually got to see him do his oath and talk, and the ceremony was phenomenal. And he wanted me to be there, and it's just to see someone get their citizenship to the United States was amazing. You don't think about it. He did it the right way. He's not running across the border and ducking and hiding for years.
Well,
He
not to
served
mention,
the military.
yeah, well, and that's I got to see that in my career too a couple of times. I didn't get to go to the actual ceremony, but I know the sense of pride that they had, and it was weird to me. It's like I feel like if you're going to join the United States Army or Marine Corps as a foreign citizen of another country, should that not automatically just be citizenship? Why do you have to go through a test and a ceremony and all of that? Like you volunteered your life to serve another country. That seems like a pretty fair price to pay for citizenship to me.
That was the sentiment of the guy that was talking to him too. He was
I
very
hope
happy
so.
with him.
That's good to hear, and I hope that it's still like that. I there's no telling what it's like now, but it really
Mess.
does. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. Like you put them in the damn military, like why not just give them citizenship as part of welcome to the United States Army, Private Martinez. Here, you're a U.S. citizen now. Why do you need to go through all the rigmarole or whatever? And so I'm glad you got to share that with him because it was pretty cool when I was a younger soldier and seeing some of the the guys I served with get their citizenship, and having the parties in the barracks afterwards to celebrate with them, and just that sense of pride that they had. So I'm glad you got to have that experience too. Last question here in just your military career. Were there any expectations you had of the Army before you joined that you kind of turned out to be very different in reality, or surprised you in a way?
To be honest, no. I
It
was
was
expecting
everything you hoped it'd be.
it was. I was expecting to be treated, like a soldier. Hey, you bought this, you paid for it. Get out there and do it in the mud. And I became a professional camper, and so as
Yes.
a scout. And no, there's nothing no expectations that failed me. The Army lived up to everything. I mean, there were some pretty crappy days. I'll admit that. Sitting in ambush for 24 hours in the mud and snow, wet, uh, rolling out to a FTX with no heater in your vehicle, and it's snowing and raining at the same time. So no, there's nothing. I thought, I'm doing this and I'm getting paid for it. I enjoyed it. I really did. Later in my career, when I got toward the end, being a first sergeant, things changed. I knew when it was time to get out. When it went from kicking in doors and having a good time doing hoo-ha stuff to sitting in the office. I remember one morning I got to work around 5:30. I didn't leave the office until I think it was 10:30 at night, and I never left the building. My office, I stayed there an entire day. Had a bathroom with a shower. After PT, I stayed in there, paperwork all day, and I was like, man, this is not what I signed up for. And I knew it was time to go ahead and start heading toward the door.
It's funny because I always said that my whole career. I never wanted to go past E7. That was the only goal I had for myself. I wasn't chasing rank or anything, but I watched, and I that transition from E7 to E8, where you're no longer really about soldiers, you're about beans, bullets, and barracks, right? And that was what you're talking about, being jammed in that office for the entire day, and
It's rough for a soldier.
it really is, particularly, a Cav Scout or an infantry soldier who, your whole career, you're with the men, right? You're with the men out there doing the same things, leading from the front, kicking the doors in, educating, and then, you take the next step, and now you're in charge of 4 platoons, 3-4 platoons, whatever that looks like. And it's always logistical shit. And you're always over at battalion doing meetings with sergeant major or the colonel or whatever. And it just didn't seem like a life that I would like. Plus, I never made that rank, so I wouldn't know, but I've heard it gets pretty political at that point too.
It does, and I knew a lot of people, but that didn't get me where I was. I did have a sergeant major toward the end. Sergeant Major Bob is a great guy, and he told me, he says, First Sergeant, you need to get all the first sergeants together with me. He said, because we have barbecue and stuff like that and hang out. And I was like, okay. I never thought of hanging out with the sergeant major, but and I was the HAC first sergeant. He just basically said, look, he says, I don't have a lot of friends. He said, I'm at the top. He said, that's just where I'm at. He said, and you guys probably the same way. And he was correct. I had the platoon sergeants, but they weren't like they were my friends or my soldiers. They were platoon sergeants. So it's lonely at the top. So it changed from being
Really,
straight up, down in the dirt, eating your food with them. By the way, if anybody ever tells you they love MREs, that's somebody that's never lived on MREs.
I've lived on them and I miss them. I wouldn't
Oh,
say that I like them, but I definitely. I mean, there's times where I'm like, like I could. Sometimes my wife and I will go over. I live here in Florida, close to Patrick Space Force Base, so I can go to the commissary. I can buy individual MREs,
oh my
and so
gosh.
once in a blue moon, because she
You
hates.
were you were a purebred infantryman.
I
And
was, yeah.
that's what we called you. No offense, we called you guys earth pigs.
Yeah,
Man.
well. What's funny about that? I actually had a platoon, a second platoon, ACO 123. We were the Earth Pigs. That was our
Oh
mascot,
wow.
and so
That's awesome.
right on it. But we really do. My wife was a wildland firefighter when I met her, and they eat MREs also. They're a paramilitary organization, so they have a lot of the same tactics that we do. And she didn't know me when I was in. We met after I was out, and and getting to have the conversation. And so every now and again, I'll go over there and surprise her with an MRE, and that's what we'll do for dinner. And I remember how shitty they are when I'm eating them, and I'm like, why the hell did I decide to do this? But it's a good reminder where you come from, man.
Oh,
And
I've been reminded too much of my career to ever want to do it again. And it's funny. My kids kind of missed out on a lot of things in life, like camping. I'm not a camper. I spent 22 years, 1 month, 8 days as a professional camper. I hate camping. When I go somewhere, like my deer camp on the little ranch, I have a cedar cabin. It's got, I brought my own. I don't have satellite TV. I've got a DVD player with every hunting video you can imagine. But I got hot shower, air conditioning. I want to live good.
yeah, creature comforts, man. We
Oh
we
gosh.
sacrificed all that while we were in, and I'm the same. I'm the same exact way. My wife cannot wrap her head around it because she wants to be out there camping all the time. I'm like,
Mm-mm.
I had 12 and a half, almost 13
You
years
done?
of just. I'm just over it. It's just not exciting to me. I don't want to do it anymore. Like just sleeping outside, sleeping on the ground, being cold, wet, tired, miserable. I'm not into it anymore. We have developed houses and nice comfy beds and all these air conditioners for a fucking reason. And I'm
Yeah,
damn sure going to take advantage.
we've slept. I've slept on a rock. Oh my God! I slept in the hellhole of a Bradley,
Oh yeah.
going down range, and didn't even know it. But I mean, I don't want to do any of that. No, the Army never disappointed me. It was quite when I got out. It was quite tough. I remember the day I went to final clearing, and I went to get my new ID card, my retirement ID card. So she asked for my CAT card. I handed her my ID card. She handed me my new ID card. And I just sat there for a minute, and she looked at me. She goes, "Yes." And I was like, "What now?" She goes, "I don't care what you do." And I was like, "Huh?" She goes, "You're out of the Army." She said, "You're done." And I said, "I'm finished." And for the first time in over 22 years, I was, it's weird, but I was free. I didn't have responsibility. I didn't have anything else to do. So I walked out of the clearing place at Fort Knox, and I just stood there and looked outside and took my first breath as a civilian, as a retiree. And I was pretty happy. It was like a big load off my back. But then,
In the moment, right? But then
yeah,
reality starts to set in,
yeah,
and
I'm
and
like,
uh,
oh, now what?
the description that you gave of sitting in your driveway, realizing everything has changed. I similarly, a prime example. I think in the form that you filled out to come on the show, you talked about the phone stops ringing. All that good. You're attached to a phone, and in the military, I think, when I came in 03, we still had payphones at the barracks, and it wasn't a requirement for every soldier to have a phone. And I know you remember those days, right? Trying to track people down, going to knock on barracks doors, whatever unfortunate private happens to be in the barracks for the detail is the guy
Yeah,
that's getting on the detail.
their name was "Come Here, you."
Yes,
Come here,
yes.
you.
And so pretty early in my career, I'd say within the first 2 years, everybody had a cell phone. Now they can get a hold of you 24/7. And then stupid rules, as the Army likes to institute, as I'm sure you're well aware, and we're probably part of some of those dumb rules, is like, now you got to have a ringer on your phone, except for when you're in briefings, and it better be either turned off or on silent and all of that. And you can get in trouble if you miss phone calls, because then it's like missing movement and this, that, and the other. And I remember getting out November 2nd, 2015, the phone stops ringing. It just stops. Nobody's reaching out to you anymore. You're not that leader anymore. You're not a guy that can put out fires. And so for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to just turn the damn ringer off on this. It's not ringing anyway. And I haven't turned a ringer on my phone since. And I've been out 10 years now. And man, the silence is deafening, right? Like that's a mind fuck. It really does fuck with you. It's like, man, my phone used to blow up day in and day out, 7 days a week, and then all of a sudden it stops. So what was that like for you? What was it like sitting in the driveway and realizing that?
It was extremely depressing, and I'm not that kind of a person that will sink into a depression. It's not my character. I got other things. I could pick up sticks in the yard and take my mind off stuff, but. I remember sitting in Lumberton, Texas, and I had everything in my entire life in the garage of that apartment. And I was sitting out there and I was like, what am I doing? There's nothing here. My whole life is in this garage and the phone doesn't ring. It's like once I got out, nobody even knew that I existed anymore. Nobody cared what I did. Nobody's calling me, hey, First Sergeant, I need this. Hey, First Sergeant, I need that. And it was depressing. It really was. And I was like, man, I got to snap out of this. And it wasn't very long. It was only, I was probably only doing that for about a month, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I took a job at Union Pacific in the
railroad,
interim, right in between the military and what I do now. And I thought, I wasn't going to do this anymore. And so I took the job, and it was bridge tender down in Lake Charles, Westlake, Louisiana. And you basically open the bridge, close the bridge when boats go by. And I was like, I went out there for the first day. I looked up at the big pistol bridge, the I-10 bridge goes over the lake. And I was like, if I do this job, I'm going to hang myself from that bridge. I can't do this. That's not me. So I quit after one whole day of work. And I went full force into this down here in Texas and never looked back. It's just going from having everybody in the world depend on you. It seemed like, you were very important to nothing to, all right, I got to do something different, change directions, pivot, and move on. And now we have this company.
So let's talk about this then, because, it took me 8.5 years to figure out what direction I was headed. And, everybody's different. Every individual is different. I joined at 17 years old, got out at 30 years old. I never had a chance to develop an identity outside of the military. Similarly, to you, I assume. However, our careers were very different. I mean, my entire career, you might as well just say, was spent overseas fighting the global war on terror, because I did 3 to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan. Now, you as a Cav Scout, that as an infantryman, that's a ridiculous number of deployments, and that's a long time. And statistically speaking, I probably shouldn't be here having this conversation. And I lost a lot of friends, and yada yada yada, the whole story, whatever. And so, for me, it just like nothing I tried when I got out, and I followed the TAP blueprint. I went to college. I thought I was living my dream by going to flight school. I'm a commercial pilot now. Quickly realized that, that's a very, I don't know. It's a seniority-based career. Young kids, nepotism's definitely involved because, daddy's got money, puts his kids through flight school because it's going to be a great career. So you're in flight school with 17-year-old kids they're going to have a higher seniority number than you when you get to the airlines. And it's just about paying a lot of dues and starting way completely over, like realizing that I'm never going to touch the top of this career ladder, which doesn't sit well with me anyway, right? Like, it's just not built that way. I need to be, I need a clear path to the top so that it's on me if I don't get there. You know what I mean? And then I went and got the bachelor's degree, and then I entered the insurance industry, and I did a lot of things, man. I worked at Amazon, like similar to what you were talking about. I worked at Amazon warehouse for one shift, and I was like, fuck this. This is not happening. Dude, the leadership there is absolutely terrible. They call themselves managers, yet they walk around to you with a computer that has a picture of your face on it to tell you that you're not hitting numbers and you need to go faster. They don't even know your name. It's for those of us who are familiar with good leadership and what that looks like. Try going to an environment like that. And so, how did you land on AAAAC wildlife retrieval and like what? It's such a. I mean, you're the exterminator, really. Like, you're pest control. And so, like, how did you get into this?
Well, I like to hunt a lot. I'm a avid hunter. Anything and everything I can hunt. So I was at Fort Knox at all. There I was. Every good story starts with there I was. There I was at Fort Knox. I came outside one day, in my garbage can there was a raccoon. So I was like, doggone raccoon. So I wrapped it up in a rope around the trash can, hauled out in the woods. I turned him loose. So the next day I had another one. And fast forward to that weekend, I went to hunt control to go. I was going hunting. And I was telling the people in hunt control, I was like, you ought to let us just hunt all the coons in the neighborhoods, and we could get rid of them, and we won't let them get in the trash, or they won't get in the trash. And they said, well, why don't you get Terry to help you? And I was like, who's Terry? Or who the hell's Terry? They said, well, Terry's the wildlife removal guy for Post. I was like, what? That's a job?
Light bulb
Oh
goes
my gosh. Oh, it was a big light bulb. It was a big giant one, LED. So, or
You're
tank
like,
light. Poof.
I get to do what I like for a job. Okay.
Yeah. So I went over and I talked to Terry, and he was a Post trapper. And we got to talking, became friends. And I would do a couple of things with him, and we had a good time. And he says, man, you could really do this for a living when you get out of the military. You're getting up there. And I was like, yeah. So, deployed to Fort Hood. And after Iraq was over and everything, I was headed back and jumped head over heels into it. And I did it at Louisville, Kentucky, while I was still in the Army when I was getting ready to get out. And we retired. And I sold that office because I didn't want to stay in Louisville. I wanted to come back home. My wife had just had our third child. I started late in my career so I could raise my own kids instead of raising somebody else's. So we moved back to Texas and we started this business up, and it just grew from there. And so I'm an entrepreneur and decided this would be a good life. I mean, I've been chasing animals my whole life. Even in the military, I was chasing animals. So why not do it for a job? And it's a pretty good job. Thank you.
Yeah. So you started the first one, and how many franchises do you have now?
It was an existing franchise. Mark Dotson, okay. Air Force veteran, Mark Dotson. He had it for quite a few years, and we bought in as a franchise. And so we bought in, excuse me, and we moved to Texas and started running Texas. And talking with Mark would travel to the franchise locations, and he said, well, look, I'm looking for a franchise manager for Texas because it's a long way to travel from him out in West Virginia. So I was the first office in Texas, and I grew it, and we got to where we had 5 offices in Texas that I would oversee. They would call me with questions. They were still part of the franchise over there, but I would kind of be Mark's overseer for those franchise offices here in Texas. And then a few years after that, Mark decided he wanted to retire. So he offered it to me and my wife to buy him out. And so we purchased the franchise from him to become the franchisors. And we also are franchisees of the Houston office. So now my wife is the CEO, and she runs the whole kit and caboodle, and I'm the head trapper. I say that. So we own the whole thing together.
You leave the paperwork shit to her, so you can go out and do the manual labor, right?
You saw I had to come fix the computer. All she did was punch a couple buttons, and it's good. It's like that guy from Saturday Night Live comes over. Nobody can get it to work. He walks over and, you're an idiot. And I'm like, okay. But, yeah, so that's how I got into this. And we're 27 franchises, and or was it?
We have 21 franchisees.
21 franchisees and multiple franchises. Yeah, so we're up there. We have multiple offices, people own offices, multiple offices.
How many states do you cover?
Oh, gosh. How many different states are we in? It's like
about 13.
13 different states.
That's
right
awesome.
Now.
That's so cool.
And we're always growing. And one of the big things for me, I'm going to jump back to the military, is back whenever I was in, the older retiree guys say, man, I can't wait to retire. I'm going to just go work at Walmart. And that's what I'm going to be, the door greeter at Walmart. And I'm like, I was never one of those guys. No. But some people exited the military and just stayed on post, stayed around the military reservation, and they worked there. I remember one of my platoon sergeants from Germany, I saw years later, he worked at the commissary driving a forklift. And that's just not me. I don't need to be around a military post to survive. So I wanted to move away. And so the drive for me to do something different was big. And knowing that I could not survive working at Walmart, I wanted to do something different. And I wanted to kind of be my own. I had bosses my entire life. Most of them were good. I had some that were kind of turds, but I wanted to kind of be my own boss. I wanted to call my own shots. I wanted to be the guy in charge of everything. I didn't want to have somebody sitting over me. I have clients that are my boss, but still I'm the boss. I'm the owner. And that's what drove me. But the military really, the one thing they did do was a poor job of transitioning us from the military to civilian life. Go to college, go to college. Well, not everybody wants to go to college. I got college in the Army, but it's not something that I'm interested in doing.
Well, I'm proof that doesn't work because I did the thing. I went to college. I applied to those 6-figure jobs. I bought into you're a veteran now. They're going to want to hire you. And no, that's bullshit. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, for some people it's true, but for most people, particularly right here today in 2025, the job market is all over the fucking place. We're discovering things like 83% of job postings on job boards are fake. Right. So it's kind of inflated numbers. Like you could scroll Indeed, for example, and see hundreds of jobs on there. 83% of those are fake. You're never going to hear anything from anybody on those. Right. And it's just a tragedy. And I'm so glad to have you here because over 100 episodes of this show now and counting, like close to 120 now, it's evolved. I started this show with the idea that the path back to purpose for veterans was entrepreneurship, which I still very much believe. I really still believe that. However, having conversations, I realized the bigger problem is, like you just said, the military doesn't prepare you to be a civilian. And I've heard all the pushback on the comments on LinkedIn and everything else, even on this podcast, that, well, the Army's not in the business of training civilians. It's in the business of training, people to go fight and defend our national security. And I would argue that they should be in the business of training us how to be civilians because right now, our recruiting numbers are the lowest they have ever been.
There you go.
Ever.
You're on it. Yeah.
And the big problem with that is our biggest recruiting tool, and this is not coming from me, this is coming from conversations I've had with people who spend 16 years on recruiting, 20 years on recruiting, like career recruiters who will tell you the biggest driver of recruiting is our nation's veterans. And you're coming up on a generation of children who are military age now that can join, who have watched their parents go through 20 years of war and struggle to cope as civilians on the other side. So what's the incentive for them to join the military, right? And so why I'm so glad to have you here is because I fundamentally do not like the idea of a franchise. It's not for me personally. That's me. I'm not saying that I have a overarching problem with franchises. In fact, I've taken it to the extreme, and I've partnered in my free community for transitioning service members with a husband and wife team who will help you get into a franchise, whatever that looks like, because I was getting tons of questions about franchises. And it's just fundamentally for me as a person, to me, a franchise is buying a job. I would rather make my own way and build my own thing. That's just me personally. However, I would love for you, because when you filled out the form, you brought up some very good points about franchises and why they fit military members so well. And so I'd love for you to talk about why you think franchises are the perfect opportunity for those in transition and why they should be looking harder at those. Like I said, just for me, I always felt like buying into a franchise was buying a job. And like, I'd rather not
quite. Not quite. But I'll just tell you that me and Vincent, my franchise development officer, we travel around the military posts. It's very difficult to get into military posts. I'll go into these career fairs and I'll talk to people and I'll tell people straight up, look, I'm not looking for everybody here. Not everybody here is going to do what I think they need to do to be successful. I'm looking for that one or that two retiree that doesn't want to work at Walmart, doesn't want to go work at Home Depot, that wants to do something for themselves. Look, I'm a franchisor, but I'm also a franchisee. It's already laid out for us. You have support from within here. We get our royalties from each one, but that pays for a lot of advertising. We do a lot. It's tough out here, but the training and the pure experience that comes from the entire group is, you can't just develop that. You can't jump into this business. Oh, I'm a trapper. There's a lot to this. Dead animal removal, for instance, it's about experience, but there's tricks that you need to know. There's not shortcuts, but there's experience that talks and develops and teaches that you just can't develop overnight just jumping into it. Franchises, some of them can be very costly. We're not that group, okay? I'm looking for someone that wants to do something for themselves. They want to earn a fantastic living. I make pretty good money doing this. I certainly can go hunting when I want, and I can take a day off when I want and go jump in my boat and go fishing when I want, which I'm going to do Friday. So I call the shots. I like this, but being in a franchise, you do still have that camaraderie. We have our phone calls. I talk to all my people. I'm going hunting with one of my offices up in Wisconsin later this year. We have our annual conference, which everybody loves to. We just came back from Florida. We were at Universal Studios for a few days, and then we went to Disney World for a few days. And
you're in my backyard, man.
It's fantastic. But this business right here, my specific wildlife removal, is not for everyone. It's for guys like me, or maybe for you if you enjoyed hunting and you wanted to get out and do something different. This fits in your wheelhouse. We can show you a path. Then we're not going to rip you off. I'm not about ripping anybody off. I pay franchise royalties just like everyone, and I can show everyone. I'm one of the biggest offices, and I pay every month for everyone. And so I know a lot of people don't like franchises, but if somebody would come and take a look and talk with me, they might change their mind that this is something that might be pretty good. But for a military person, college is not everything, especially for an old combat soldier that jumping out and going to college, you're going to have to start over. And that's not what I was designed for. I was designed to be an entrepreneur, to go out, work on my own, do my own thing, and make a little bit of money along the way and have a good life. Heck, I've been doing this since I got out.
Yeah, let's talk about this then, because I think this is a perfect opportunity to clear up a lot of things about franchises, starting with, you mentioned the one of the biggest pros, even in my mind, even as somebody who's not interested in owning a franchise, is the systems and processes to run the business are in place when you buy into the franchise. There is zero guesswork into how do I do this, right? Because I'm sure, document after document, training after training that teaches people how to do this. And so is it fair to say that buying into a franchise kind of lessens the risk of failure on your part if you follow the steps and the systems that are already laid out for you?
Absolutely. You've got offices out there all over the country that have already been doing it. It'd be hard to fail. Everything's already laid out, and if you do what you're shown to do and how to do it, you're going to be successful. I mean, that's one of the things. And I do travel around to offices and work with them. We got a new office that just opened up, or they didn't just open up. They've been there for how long? San Antonio been there?
9 months.
How many?
Almost 9 months.
Almost 9 months. Fourth in our franchise right now on rankings. They've been there for 9 months. They came in with a determination to do everything by the book. They exploded, and they are doing fantastic. Every time I talk to them, I got to hire a new guy, buy a new truck. I'm like, holy moly, these guys are on a roll. So I might have to watch my back. They might be trying to take my spot. So
I think as the franchisor, you're fine. I mean,
yeah,
you're fine.
I'll be all right.
You own them all anyway. So,
well, each office is individually owned. They pay to use my marks.
Yeah, they're paying the royalties on it. I mean, so you're going to be okay. You can close your damn Houston office if you want to and still make a pretty good living.
No, we off the royalties and stuff, and I tell everybody, we pour so much back into advertising. It's unbelievable. I ain't going to get into numbers, but it's tough. But there are so many companies out here now doing this. A lot of big pest control companies out there, the big ones, try to do wildlife. This is one of the big things when I talk to people, customers. I say, you had a couple of other bids, and it's usually from bug guys. I said, big corporations. I'm like, well, I say, listen, if you want the plumber to fix your truck, let the plumber work on your truck. I said, but if you want the mechanic to fix your truck, you hire the mechanic. He knows what he's doing. He's not going to waste your time and money. It's the same thing with us. If you have a raccoon in your attic, or you have rats in your attic, that's wildlife. It's not a bug. Hire a wildlife guy that's specifically trained to deal with that issue. I do nothing but wildlife. I have a pest control applicator's license for the state of Texas. I don't do bugs. I do wildlife, and I only do wildlife. I'm good at it.
Yeah. What explain to people, like, what situations are you going to be called out? Like, when should people be reaching out to your company versus reaching out to pest control? You said, rats in the attic, stuff like that. Are you dealing with, I don't know, for example, I know in Colorado, these assholes just release wolves back into, private property that's killing cattle and shit like that. You dealing with stuff like that?
Well, I'm here in Texas. We don't have any wolves. We got coyotes. I just removed a coyote from downtown Houston yesterday. River Oaks is right close to the center of the city, and I removed a coyote from this lady's front yard. Uh, it's not a huge yard. It's about an acre lot that she has, but I caught a coyote in her front yard. She has two of them that have been coming after her dogs and cats in that neighborhood, and there's a lot of coyotes in Houston. So I went down, set traps, caught a coyote, loaded it up live in my truck, and took it away. Uh, we do anything wildlife. We do a lot of rats and mice. I do alligators. That's kind of a different thing. Most offices across the country don't do alligators, but here in Texas, I am a licensed trapper for the state of Texas, Department of Fish and Wildlife, to trap alligators, nuisance gators, in neighborhoods. I removed one. Was it last week? It was 9 foot 2 inches out of a neighborhood pond. It was 100 yards from a elementary school, and it was all over the bank. And the people, 50% of the people wanted it gone. 50% of the non-resident people, I say non-resident because they're not from Texas, they wanted it there because they thought it deserved a place to live. And
No,
I'm like,
it's a
well,
damn dinosaur. It's got to go. It's got to go. I'm sorry.
that's what I said.
We have the problem here, right? I love dogs. We have two dogs. I live in the state of Florida. Everybody
Mhm.
knows it's a rule of thumb in the state of Florida. Do not let your dog swim in any single body of water anywhere in Florida unless it's the ocean. And even then, that's a toss up, right? And for example, my neighborhood, I live in a really nice gated neighborhood, not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that. I mean, it's a modest house. We paid average price for it, just in a nice neighborhood. And we have two at the front of the neighborhood. There's two ponds, and we got a notification last year letting us know that there's a baby gator in the front pond, and that the
Baby come
wildlife.
from somewhere.
Yeah, well, exactly. And the wildlife removal companies around me will not come and remove that until it's more than 4 feet long. Can you explain that to me? What the hell is the point of that? Like, get rid of the damn thing while it's small. It's easier to manage. Why do you need to let the damn thing grow up and eat neighborhood puppies?
Well, I'll just speak to Texas. Uh, in Texas, if it's natural habitat, uh, and we're trained when we go to the class. There's only 135 of us, I believe, across the state that are licensed to do alligators. But one of the things you got to do is assess the situation. Is it natural habitat? If it's natural habitat and it's not posing danger to any people or wildlife, or I'm sorry, people or livestock or domestic animals, you got to leave it, no matter the size. But if it's in a unnatural habitat, no matter the size of the gator, and people think it's a nuisance, then yes, it can be removed. Uh, like the pond I was at, the lake I was at, it's completely surrounded by houses and a school. So there's no other place for it to go but on the bank right there. So that's a nuisance no matter the size. A 3 foot one will grow to be a bigger one. So why not catch it when it's small? I will tell you that they're harder to catch when they're small. That's like a needle in a haystack trying to find. A bigger one is easy to find. He's going to be fat and lazy and lay up on the bank. But a little one, he's afraid for his life, so he doesn't want to get out of the water very much. So it's difficult. I know in Florida, there's only a few gator trappers, so it's difficult to get on that to get a license to do that. I do have offices down in Florida. They do assist, but they don't trap. So yeah, Florida's a little different, but yeah, in Florida, same as Texas and Louisiana, if the water's wet, there's a gator in it.
Yeah, I got to watch. I worked on a sod farm down here testing Stanley Black and Decker's new lawn mowing equipment on the sod farm. Just for it was kind of one of the best jobs I ever had because it paid $1,000 a week after tax from 7 to 3:30 in the morning. I had no responsibility, but out on the sod farm, I got to watch them trap the big gators that live in the canals on the sod farms. Get to watch the gators going headed back to their homes as the sun would come up in the mornings. those things were a lot faster on land than they look, for sure.
They're very fast, yeah.
But it was really cool to watch them trap some of the bigger, I think they had a 14-foot gator in the main canal that fed all the water, and they just hung raw chickens every so many feet on giant hooks to catch these gators. And then it'd take like 6 dudes to drag this 14-foot gator out of the canal. And it was just cool to watch that. They call them cowboys down here. I don't know why. It's weird. At least on the sod farm, that's what they called them. But yeah, I don't know. It was weird, but it was cool to get to watch them trap those gators and remove them. I have no idea where those gators end up. I'm sure that they're probably not still alive, but whatever, that's none of my business. So it's just really cool to get to watch all of that. And man, wildlife, dude, wildlife trapping, like it's a dream come true for you. And I know that it's probably a dream come true for a lot of other veterans. Just being an infantry guy, I was around so many people that are just as enthusiastic, if not more so, about hunting and trapping and fishing, just like you. And I'm so glad that you asked to come on this show because, this can serve as like another outlet for them to explore. Like, you want to start a franchise with AAAAC Wildlife, like reach out to Brian because he can hook you up. I'm sure he'd love to open another office somewhere.
Sure. I love it. I mean, the military, I always said the military is a perfect place to find offices simply because, we've been in the military for so long and we're tired of doing that. You want something else, but you don't particularly want to go sit in an office or you don't want to have a boss over your shoulder all the time. This is perfect. The only thing I have over a shoulder is like a raccoon looking at me, stuff like that. I got to watch for alligators. Not every office does that, but it's a perfect fit for someone in the military that's wanting to transition to something else. It's just the military is a hard nut to crack. It's a very hard nut to crack because they always think that you want something. Well, I want to give somebody a chance like I had because getting out, I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have anything like that. I didn't want to do the traditional go to work 9-to-5 job. I wanted something different, and this fit the bill. And there's a lot of guys like me out there that want to do the same. Guys and girls. I have an office owned by a female, and she's one of the best. She can trap. She's good, and so that's Christy Steele, by the way. She's awesome. So it doesn't matter male or female. You want to own an office? We got offices out there all over America.
I love it, man. Let's talk about the award that you just won last year, 2024 Veteranpreneur of the Year. Congratulations, brother.
Thank you. I thought you were talking about the best looking trapper in the world.
Well, I mean, I feel like your female trapper probably has you beat on that one.
Well, yeah. All right. So, Veteranpreneur of the Year was pretty cool. I know we were looking at it, and they wanted you to write a bio and everything, so we wrote that up. And then we were looking at pictures. And the picture that got selected was I was sitting on the back of a 12.5-foot alligator. And so I asked Vincent, I said, let's look up the competition. So we started looking at all the other people and the pictures they sent in. They're on business suits they're all a bunch of real nice businessmen, looking real good and everything. Then you get down and there's this redneck sitting on the back of a 12-foot gator. Immediately I was drawn to that and I was like, that'd be the guy I voted for. Simply because he's crazy,
Well, I think there's an element of authenticity to it too, right? You're not polished. You're not in a suit and tie. And this is an approach that I take with everything that I'm building. All the directions that I'm headed is, it's rainy and a little chilly here in Florida today. So I don't have my standard attire on, but I'm a tank top and board shorts guy. I show up to all my meetings in that. I conduct all my business that way. I coach people that way. That is me. That is what you're getting with me. That is who I am. And I refuse to bend on that. And I take a lot of inspiration from, you may or may not know him, but Pat McAfee is taking over the sports media world. I followed him. I'm a huge Indianapolis Colts fan. Obviously, I grew up in Southern Indiana, so naturally I'm a Colts fan. But I watched Pat's career. I followed him. I started listening to his podcast after he retired. I've watched him grow his entire company. And one of the things that stuck with me is he is bound and determined because he caught so much flack when he was in the NFL to change the sports media landscape. And he said he was going to do it in jorts and a tank top. And I was like, man, if this dude can get deals with ESPN where he still owns all of his IP and his logo and all of that, and he's pushing ESPN around, and he's doing it in a tank top and shorts. Like, that tells me that we have just redefined what professional looks like.
Exactly. It's kind of funny you say that because my kids, when they were in school, they would always have the donuts with dad day. You've heard of that? Well, I'd show up. I'm wearing shorts and combat boots and just my shirt untucked, and that's how I show up. Usually camouflage shorts, and I'll show up there, and you got all the dads in suits, or they're all tech guys, and into computer stuff. I'd say 98% of them are dressed like that. And then you got me. I'm the guy that everybody's looking at like, what do you do? So I catch animals, so I was always different. You don't have to wear a business suit to be particularly successful. Back in the military, we wore a suit. Our suit cost, if you break it down, our suit cost about $400. And that's with the combat boots, socks, everything that we had that we wore every day. It's about a $400 suit. I wore that my whole life. Now I'm wearing shorts and this shirt right here. It's pretty cool. It's got camo on the back. But that's what I wear every day to work. So people kind of know me. They see the guy with the combat boots and the short camo shorts. He's out there wrestling alligators and beavers and whatever else. It's redefined success. Everybody doesn't have to wear a suit and a tie.
No, I mean, look, like even in the tech space, if you look at this guy, Palmer Luckey, who's now created his own defense company with tech, and really, the dude wears a Hawaiian shirt, shorts, and flip-flops, and he's a multi-billionaire. Like, you can be successful no matter what attire you're wearing. And so keep that in mind.
I don't have to put a show on.
You don't.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I have this saying, authenticity is the new digital currency. And the more authentic you are and true to yourself, the more attention and just the direction you're trying to go, it'll just be less resistance, because I think in the beginning, you'll have more resistance. I've seen the comments, let's be more professional on LinkedIn. And it's like, well, I would argue that I am being professional because I know how my audience talks and I speak their language, because my audience is our community, right? Our brothers and sisters. So everything I say is full of fucks and shits and dams, because that's how we talk. That's how you communicate when you're in the military, period, end of story.
Basic military language.
Right. And they're just fucking words, man. They're just words. So, Ryan, I really appreciate you being here and doing this today. For those that are interested in the work that you do, looking to get into a franchise that, maybe they discovered, well, I could be a full-time trapper and own a business doing it. How can they reach out to you? How can they inquire about, being a franchisee and all that good stuff?
Oh, they can look on our website. It's AAAACwildliferemoval.com. They can go on there and they can communicate with Vincent at our office. What's your email?
Franchise
at
AAAAC.
franchise at AAAACwildliferemoval.com. They can always call our office. That number's on the website, and they can talk. If anybody wants to get a hold of me personally, you call the office, and they can give you my cell phone number. I'll talk to anybody, explain anything I do. I love what I do. I never work a day in my life. That's the old saying. It's absolutely true. Today I've got to go out when I leave here and put some waders on and jump in a ditch and set some nutria traps. That's what I'm going to go do. I might stop at Bass Pro just to walk around, but it's my day.
You need a new fishing rod for going out on the boat on Friday, right?
I need a new fishing rod. So when I go out to do duck removal, so when I get the duck out there, I shoot him on the lake. I got to cast. Everything I do off not working, hunting and fishing is all tied to my business. Everything. My fishing rods are used every day in this business.
And I think this is a perfect lesson for vets, man. Like, follow your damn passions. You literally can live the best life ever. If I say this ad nauseum, sit with yourself when you get out, discover your core beliefs, values, passions, define what success looks like for you, and then follow that path. because that's going to be more rewarding than anything you've ever done in your entire life. Whether you're making money or not, whether you're pre-revenue like I am currently and you're losing money, you're still going to be filled with more joy than you've ever had in your entire life, because you're doing something that you want to do, not something that everybody else is telling you should be.
Yep. College is not always there. It's for people, some people. It wasn't for me. I like what I do. My wife has a couple degrees, and just
Is she
my
using
thing.
them?
Absolutely, she's using them. She runs the business, though. Her degrees are in business,
So there you go.
that's
Right.
used. So I know a lot of people get degrees and other stuff. I'm not even using it. Well, she forced to use hers, and so it really helps out. But I think even without a college degree, my wife would. She's amazing. She could run this business, in every direction. It takes drive, determination, just passion to do what you want to do.
I think truly, really what it takes is just discipline. Just be disciplined and show up every day, and don't quit when it gets hard or frustrated. Like, just show up every day, take some action to try and, you're not going to know what you're doing majority of the time. Like, the thing is, take a bunch of action, collect a bunch of feedback, implement feedback, continue to grow, right? Like that's the formula.
Exactly. You're never going to know unless you try. A decision is better than no decision. That's a basic military deal. Left, right or wrong, make a decision and move out, stick by it. If it's screwed up, we're going to tell you it's screwed up. We'll correct the direction and move out. So it's a military. You got the experience from the military. Move forward with it. Drive your own life. Lead your own battle to the, I don't know, something weird. Lead your own battle to where you want to go. So
I love it, man. Brian, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for doing this show. I really appreciate it. I think this is going to bring a ton of value and open another door to our brothers and sisters out there who are lost and confused and just kind of, trying to figure it out. So I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Brian Moss from AAAAC Wildlife Retrieval. Don't forget, we have a free community for transitioning veterans. It's, member driven. I will not drive engagement in there, but it's a place, antithesis of Facebook groups. You can come, be vulnerable, talk about the challenges you're going through with almost 200 other veterans who are building businesses, developing careers, trying to figure out where the fuck they're going. Just come be with our brothers and sisters who want something more and want actionable advice they can take. There's a ton of resources in there. I will put AAC Wildlife Retrieval in there as another resource, as a franchise opportunity for you guys if you want to, try and inquire about a franchise. We've got things like, emotional wellness regulation devices. We've got some red light therapy stuff coming. We've got 7 Eagle Group who will help position you in a career field that aligns with your beliefs, values, and passions. There's just all kinds of stuff. The husband and wife franchise team, if maybe AAAC is not for you, but you want to do a more service-based in-home kind of business, we've got that in there. Please join the Stronghold and use it for what it was intended to be used for. We will see you guys next week with another awesome episode. Thanks again, Brian, for being here, brother.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.